Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here, and once again it is time to enter the world of the callous, the world of the cacophonous, the world of the crossed. Today we're going to be taking a look at Cross Plus 100 Issue 2. Now if you haven't seen my video on Issue 1, there should be a card popping up for it right about now, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the future installments. Now, without any further self-shilling or ado, it's time for Cross Plus 100 Issue 2. And don't worry, this whole video is not gonna rhyme. I just do that sometimes. Shit. Motherfucking crossed! We catch up with our run crew as the rig heads for Memphis. On the journey, future Taylor reads from her fiction encyclopedia about Lord of the Rings and writes in her journal. July 14th, 2108. Aw fuck. Kicking for Memphis. In the surprise, my mom's dad and his people had kept him alive for 9 years, then got infected off bio-boobies. He had to mop them himself. 2023, he joined my grandmother's running tribe. We're less infected then. They were relaxed, had 2 girls together. Then, 2038, surprise attack. Granddad and Mom got away. They arrived in Chuga 75, and Mom met Dad. The past, it's not fuck simple with magic and goods and bads. Never was. Never will be. George R.L. Tolkien did an Opsy Memphis. More later. Once in Memphis, they unload their wagons and begin their search. The ruins are littered with skeletal remains and overgrown brush. They run across a herd of elephants roaming free, having broken out of their confinement in the now dilapidated zoo. Moving through the remains of Memphis, we get a little bit more insight into Greer. He was born to a survivalist settlement. They managed to fight off the Cross for a pretty long while, until the Cross smartened up and got the bright idea to burn the survivalist out. In the ensuing chaos, Greer's sister was trapped under a collapsed, burning support beam. He did his best to save her, but it was no use, and he was rewarded, and ended up horribly burned, leaving him in the state of beauty that we currently find him. And through this same line of conversation, we learn that he was one of the people who helped build Chuga in 73, along with future Taylor's dad. As they continue to move through the city, they are all in awe as they come upon the Memphis Arena, or Memphis Pyramid, where Taylor supposes that it must have been like ancient Egypt that she's read about, and this must have been where they stored their dead. They hop back in the rig and head towards the Hernando de Soto Bridge to Arkansas, where Greer was raised. But as they near it, they realize that there is a gaping hole smack dab in the middle of it, making crossing impossible. So they bunk there for the night and treat themselves to some O-burgers. Greer calls in a new travel plan to old man George back in Chuga over the radio, and Taylor talks to her mom for a bit. Later that night, Cautious complains that Keller won't sex her, but Ho-Ho offers her companionship, and Cautious accepts. Taylor goes over the finds of the day, which include a video of someone getting defiled with a camera and an eyeless family singing church hymns, all footage from the surprise. And as disturbing as these things are, she just keeps bringing herself back to the framed picture she found in Jackson. She writes in her journal, "What for did infected have that picture? I'm naming him Phil. Tupelo tomorrow if there's clear running. I'm ready to bunk. Just close my eyes and not skull about anything till morning." The next day they come across Graceland, and like so many who visited it before, they are once again in awe. As they investigate, they find a room overgrown with greenery, and in the midst of it is another altar, this one with a framed picture of Jesus and the word salt written across it. But as they discuss what it could mean, the Crossed enter and charge them. Ho-Ho charges at the Crossed, opening fire, but Greer grabs her, pulling her back, telling her to keep tight. At such close quarters it's a bit of a scrape, but they manage to put them all down. Afterwards, Cautious runs up to Ho-Ho and checks her to see if she's alright, but what she sees is a splotch of red on her neck. Greer and Taylor tell Cautious to get back, as it's a splashback, and Ho-Ho is infected. Ho-Ho argues, screaming at Greer that this better be a joke, but as they argue, her movements become erratic, her speech becomes broken, and the crossed rash begins to spread across her face. She begins to scream, "Brown in my mouth! Brown in my mouth!" Greer steps up and unloads on her. Cautious collapses into Taylor's arms, weeping as Keller runs in, having heard the shots. Greer orders the girls back to the rig as he and Keller clean up. That night, Cautious sleeps in Taylor's bunk. But Taylor can't sleep. She reflects on all the things swirling around in her head, and her first time seeing someone turn. So as always, she turns to her journal. July 15th, 2108. She got the rash and the voice. It was fuck the worst. Like Ma said, I never scolded before what Mom's managed with all those years. I couldn't have done it like she had to. I'm fuck sure. The way Ho-Ho was, I couldn't have lived in a world full of that brown. I'm fuck loose over this. And there was another shrine in the mansion. I don't like it now. Let the future be tight. Fuck, please. There's nowhere else. I skull like I'm making connections that aren't, missing ones that are. I want Moms. I want Chuga. But this won't let me go. I'm sculling back in Jackson, that white powder in the church. I'm sculling that with salt. Could be. More later. And this issue leaves us with the image of their rig pulling away from Graceland being consumed by flames. The writing in this issue holds up comparatively to the first, but with the central cast, basic premise, and world established, in this issue we get to start to dive into things just a little bit deeper. We begin to see the introductions of more of the characters' backstories, getting to learn more about Greer, as well as the family line of Taylor. And these two backstories share some common threads, that being that there have been multiple instances of small periods of cooling down in which the uninfected begin to become normalized, only to be attacked by the infected and have everything thrown back into chaos. And both show a microcosm of the human existence as it now is, with the old, or in some cases, just the slightly older, trying to protect the young from this harsh world and failing miserably. Whether it be Taylor's great-grandparents failing their son, who has to kill them after they become infected, or Greer, who tries in vain to save his sister and forever bears the scars of his failure. This illustrates quite well how fast you have to grow up living in the world of the Cross. And we can see the effects of this even carries over to our understanding of characters who we as of yet don't have finite backstories for. It's truly fantastic character work in that it doesn't overly draw attention to itself, but manages to develop the characters while continuing the world building through our understanding of the things we learn about these characters. Cautious, despite being curious and hopeful about the world, through her need for human companionship, illustrates that she has an understanding of the tangential nature of the lives they live, even if she's not ready to face that full on, which she is forced to do in these first two issues. And one day she sees the wonder that the world has to offer encapsulated with the elephant and the pyramids of Memphis, and then the next day the truest horror of their world in the eyes of Ho-Ho as she transforms right before her. This issue also solidifies Taylor's love of what she calls wishful fiction, with the books being utilized to draw thematic parallels to our unfolding tale. This device works relatively well in this volume overall, but I have to admit that in this particular issue it feels a little bit heavy-handed. Not frustratingly so or annoyingly so, but it's definitely handled better in latter issues. And finally, as far as the writing's concerned, this issue when compared to the previous does something structurally that's very interesting, being that we already seem to be toying with the structure and formula of these kind of stories. In the first issue, we get introductions, exploration, and then things go wrong. But in this issue, we see that cycle play out twice, and by doing this, it introduces a narrative form of escalation to the events, which works out nicely. Just one of those little Alan Moore touches that I really appreciate. For the art in issue 2, I have no significant complaints. The character models for our crew that I mentioned in the first issue now really start to bring additional layers to the characterization. We have a diverse array of body types among the crew and the Cross, but not in a body-positive kind of way for sure, but more it just illustrates a basic comprehension of human anatomy that's missing from most mainstream superhero comics as well as a lot of indie comics. And from this better comprehension of anatomy, we see excellent use of body language to visibly depict the progression of the shifting relationships between the characters and their relationship to their environment. Interestingly, the Cross that appear in this issue seem to be depicted slightly less grotesque than the previous. I'm not sure if that's a choice or if it's just the depiction of these specific Cross or if it's my knowledge of where the narrative is heading that is coloring my interpretation. And since I brought up color, as I go through this issue, I notice more and more how well the color is utilized. with fantastic blending of all the earthy tones, from time to time broken up by small patches of vibrant things such as the red wagon that they used to collect their findings of the expedition, and a few panels that show tropical birds living in the abandoned city. And of course, the always present bright red when blood starts flowing. And on another interesting note for the coloring, the rig that the group is traveling in seems to be a very rusty deep red, combining the more poppy color usage with the deep earth tones that saturate the rest of the book. All in all, the artwork is absolutely solid. There you have it, children of the screen. Cross, Plus 100, Issue 2. Now, for me, my favorite thing in this issue, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is the structural device by which we get to exponentially learn more not only about the characters, but get a greater comprehension of the world. What was your favorite thing about this issue? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, I wanted to mention that I am aware that there are some things that I said in this based on the stuff in the book that gets contradicted in later issues, but please, for the sake of people who have not read the full volume, please no heavy plot spoilers down below. So, thank you very much, guys, and if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends, and if you're not subscribed, then definitely subscribe to the channel so you can check out all the dope cross content I'll have coming out in the future. Once again, thank you very much, children of the screen. Hope y'all have a good one. Nerds come. Out.